grab your popcorn, grab your apple slices, grab your protein shake, grab your pizza. This is going to be a long video. How's it going, guys? Happy Thursday. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. We are reacting to the Town Hall Q&A that Motorsport Games had. As you can see, this is the CEO of Motorsport Games, Dmitry Kozko. He is a good guy. Trust me. I'm not saying anything about the business or the company or whatever, but just as a person, Dimitri's a good guy. So here he is. We're going to be reacting to the Town Hall Q&A. I have a lot to say about this because I've watched this whole thing. If you guys haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it. If not, if you don't want to see like the video itself, you can watch me react to it. I'll explain a lot of things that's going on. But I do have also a good amount of problems with the things that they said. Just because the idea and the intention of this was good, but the execution of it was not up to the standards that I was expecting. So it's like whenever someone has a good idea, it sounds good in principle, but actually executing that idea is a little bit more challenging. So we'll talk about that. So this is gonna be a long one. We don't really need to hear what DK had to say. So this is Dmitry Kozko. He said the normal stuff, you know, that you guys know, like, you know, it didn't meet our expectations, yada yada yada. We're sorry, yada yada yada. We get it. So I want to more get to the part of the video where they actually start explaining a lot of things, and that is with Paul Coleman right here. So he is the director of design of Motorsport Games. He was the one that answered pretty much all of the questions here, and so I'll play the question and the answer, and then, you know, I'll react to it. So that's how that's gonna go. Now I will say, having this question be the first question was not a good idea. Okay, because this actually is the one question and answer that I had the biggest problem with. So let's play the clip.
Yeah, so lots of people have been asking about the rearview mirrors. So we had originally planned NASCAR 21 to be a next-gen only release, but as we were developing the game, we saw that there weren't enough of the next-gen consoles being sold in, and we recognized that the majority of our community were going to be remaining on the previous generation of consoles. So we took the quite difficult decision to actually, you know, scale the game back to run on these earlier generation machines. And that's why we had to make this compromise. So you'll see that players on PC do have the rear view mirror. And I'm hopeful that with our next gen upgrade that's coming later this year, we may be able to reintroduce mirrors for console players. But if you're running on the low-end PS4s and the base level Xboxes, you're still not going to have a mirror in NASCAR 21.
Okay, so you heard Paul's answer, and this is where I get very annoyed, because what you heard was a load of BS. I don't know how else to tell you. If you know anything about gaming, anything about game development, you could have the most minor knowledge of it, but you should know that oh god. Okay, so this game's on PC. Okay, I play it on PC. You can play it at 60 FPS, you can play it at 120 FPS, you can play it uncapped. It does not have a problem. Consoles are essentially PCs, they're just weaker versions of a PC. Okay, so the reason that he gave as to this question is, will you add a rear view mirror or side view mirrors to the game? And the reason they said was, you know, we had to scale the game back because it was a next-gen game, and you know, to make it run on PS4 and Xbox, the base consoles, you know, you had to get rid of the rear view mirrors. That's cool and all to say, but I'm sorry, it just makes me feel really dumb when that answer is given, because I feel disrespected, honestly. Why is the mirror not on PC? Why? The only mirror the rear view mirror that we have on PC is in the cockpit, and even then, in the cockpit, the mirror is not detailed. The track surface in the mirror is not detailed. The resolution of the mirror is really low. And again, you have to use it in the cockpit. There's actually no, in the far chase view or anything, there is no rear view mirror. We're talking about a PC version of the game. A PC, any PC, could be the most powerful PC imaginable. You can run this game at 120 FPS on PC, but you're telling me that you can't put a mirror in it because we had to scale it. You don't gotta scale it back for PC. No, you don't. Anyone who knows anything about gaming knows you do not have to scale it back for PC. So for PC in the cockpit, why is the mirror in there? Why does it have no track detail? And why is it super low resolution? That answer to that question was a load of BS. I'm telling you guys right now, a load of nonsense. It is not because in the Xbox and the PlayStation versions of the game, they couldn't do it. Because on PC, the most powerful system that it does, you can get a RTX 3090 and run, GTA 5 with a realism mod at 100 frames. Honestly, you're telling me you can't put a rear view mirror in a game? That's a load of nonsense. That answer really made me mad because that's not the reason. I don't know what the actual reason is as to why a game developer cannot put in a rear view mirror. I really do not understand it. It seems very simple. We've had racing games for decades have rear view mirrors. It doesn't matter the resolution or whatever, the pixel count or whatever it is. In a chase camera or your hood or whatever camera, you have a rear view mirror at the top of the screen. And the fact that this game doesn't have it, and that's the reason they gave, is a load of nonsense. I'm telling you guys right now, it is. Because it just is. I don't know. If you know anything about gaming, you know it is. We head to the second question. Would you add a fuel gauge or tire wear indicators to NASCAR 21 Ignition or in future NASCAR games? Again, I really wish they didn't start with these two questions because you'll see for yourself.
Yeah, we've had a few questions about this, and the approach we wanted to take was one of authenticity. I feel that so many games out there today are essentially play by numbers. You see all the information delivered to you in the HUD and you're able to react to it in a way that's not that authentic to how the drivers get to drive these cars in the real world. In the real world, there's no tire wear indicator. Essentially, the driver's feeling the tires go off in their hands. When it comes to fuel, really all you get is a fuel pressure warning when you have to switch over to your reserve tank. There's no full fuel gauge showing the tank draining. So this is something that the driver works with their crew chief to strategize around, and they make choices as the race goes on. Now, we are, after all, making a simulated experience. It is something I think we can do a better job of informing the player about. But we need to be careful about how much of this information we produce on screen versus the experience we're trying to deliver. So we want to strike a good balance between authenticity and information for the player in the future.
Okay, so you heard his answer. All right, where do I start with this? I have never heard of a video game developer stating that they would want less information given to the player in a video game. Let's also be very clear that NASCAR 21 Ignition's purpose is not to be a full-blown sim. It is to be a simcade. That is what the console game is made to be, a simcade. That it is not made to be a full-blown simulation like a Gran Turismo or something like that. That is not the indication. It's supposed to be a simcade. The reasoning behind these answers is it's very frustrating because with all due respect to Paul, I've not met Paul. I've never met him. So for him to say that in his belief, like that too much information's given to the player, whether it's a tire wear indicator or fuel gauge, and to then say like, well, the only indicator we get as a driver is fuel pressure, right? And that is true to an extent. But the driver's job is to drive the car. And you have a crew chief and engineers and team members and a bunch of other people worrying about everything else. And those team members and the crew chief and the car engineers, they know to the exact gallon or to the exact, second that car is going to run out of fuel. So you cannot then tell the player in a video game that, you are playing the game by yourself, but you don't have a crew chief that tells you how many laps of fuel you have left. You don't have anyone to tell you, hey, your right front's being worn down a lot. So us, the player, needs to know that information, just like it's been in every other racing game ever known to man. Even in simulators, you have specific indicators, even in the simulation of R Factor 2, which these guys make, okay, and they own. You have an R Factor 2, a very clear tire wear indicator in a full-blown simulator. So what I'm getting at is, why are you giving that excuse of, as a driver, you're not supposed to get it. What's the real reason? Just say we couldn't get it to work in the game or something, because that might be, honestly, this and the rear view mirror explanations might be some of the dumbest explanations I've ever heard for a video game developer to give in order to explain as to why certain things are not in the game. Playing the game, we need to know what our tires are doing. It's not, I feel the right front's going off, but I don't know. Maybe this thing will blow in 5 seconds. I got no idea. Fuel gauge. Well, I don't know when I have to pit. I just got a little bit of a light going on. But then again, I don't know when the AI pit. I don't know when I have to pit. My spotter tells me after 5 laps that I got to pit in 5 laps, but it's only been 5 laps. Are you serious? You cannot. These are not. No, this is not acceptable. I'm sorry, this is not acceptable. It's very clear. A rear view mirror should be added. Why is it not added? Because the developers were not able to put in a rear view mirror for whatever technical reason they were. It is not because of, you know, the PlayStation and the Xbox being too weak. That's not the reason, because on PC we don't have it. Okay, and the tire wear indicator and the fuel gauge. Oh, we want it to be a full-blown sim. Your full-blown sim of R Factor 2 has a tire wear indicator, very detailed tire wear indicator. So scratch that excuse right away. They couldn't add it. That's the reason. I'd rather get those answers than this nonsense of we want it to be an authentic experience, and you should not be able to know when your tire wear indicator is, and you should only get a fuel gauge. I don't know what else to say. Because that's just not the reason. So I'm very disappointed in them, especially Paul, to give those reasons when anyone who is intelligent enough to understand how these games are made knows that's not the right reason. That's just really poor PR work. Honestly, it's just very disappointing.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's something that we wanted to focus on as we move towards the next gen cars. We see it's a really good place to introduce the feature because these cars have loads of new adjustments and settings compared to the cars that ran in 2021. So it's something we'll be looking to do as we move into the next game.
Will custom setups be added? The answer he gave was pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, like the first 2 questions was really why I made this video, so the rest will be kind of a little bit quicker. Yeah. Again, I don't think the answer is that great. He said essentially, we want to focus on the next gen car. Just come out and say we didn't have time to make custom setups for this game to make it work right, but for the next game we're very confident in having it. That's it. That's all you had to say. But instead, the way that Paul is saying it is like, it was never intended for this game, but we find a very good opportunity to make it for the next game. Just be honest, say you couldn't do it because of time restraints or whatever, and then, say that you're going to work on it for the next game. That again, just instead of trying to PR your way out of it, just be honest. It's not the end of the world. The launch of the game was already terrible, so as long as you're honest, no one would have a problem with any of this, honestly.
Yeah, a few people have been asking about this. It's actually really complicated. So we could add a toggle for motion blur, but the effect that is actually seen in game is a combination of a number of factors. Motion blur is included in that, but there's other post-process effects at play. There's anti-aliasing, and there's a frame rendering and updating algorithm. So all of these things kind of combine together to give the effect that you're seeing. So adding that toggle, which is feasible, may not actually alleviate your concern. So what we're going to look at is how we can perhaps combine all of these settings together. But it's something that we'd only be able to do in the future.
Is it possible to add an option to turn off motion blur? Like he said, this is a complicated answer, and it is complicated for every game because motion blur works differently for every game. It depends on the developer. The developer has a lot of different ways to get motion blur into the game. It's, graphically, I'm not going to really talk about much things graphically because I wouldn't know. I know about other things, but I wouldn't know graphically how to get motion blur to either work properly or turn it off. So that's all I got to say on this one.
Yeah, so we're working on adding support for more wheel manufacturers where we can on NASCAR 21. When it comes to adding things like H-pattern shifters to the game, this is something that we're looking to do in the future. And we're also hoping to add more adjustments to the wheel settings so that you'll be able to customize your experience more. We know that this is something that's really important for wheel users, and it definitely is going to come into play more as the game gets more competitive, because people want to be able to set their wheels up so that they can get the best performance out of them.
Adding support for more wheels, shifters, and pedals. This is very self-explanatory, as you heard. They just need to do it. I mean, that's how it is. I'm hoping for the next game. And by the way, guys, I know a lot of complaints is like, in this entire video, all he said was in the future, next game, and I understand that, but guys, it is what, almost February. I mean, this stuff, it does have to be focused for the next game. So that's just a matter of fact. It's not December or November. It's February now. We're getting into February. Focus has to be on the next game. So a lot of these things that are being asked really for NASCAR 21 is essentially for the next game as well. So that's how it is. We're going to kind of skip through now because, you know, I'm not going to go through every single question because I don't have a lot to say on everything. But we'll skip through to some more of the questions that are, to me, I have a lot more to say on. And then, obviously, guys, if you want to just watch the entire channel Q&A, you can do that.
So this is a good question. In the career and ignition, you're essentially signing a contract and running for an existing Cup Series team. So you're always going to be jumping into their car with their existing paint scheme and their sponsors. So we felt it didn't really make sense for you to have your custom scheme in there, essentially allowing you to run whatever sponsors you like or whatever colorways you're running.
So the answer that Paul gave to this one is essentially an answer of, we don't have an actual career mode. We have, like, you go into another person's car. So what he said was right. It's just that they don't technically have a real career mode yet when you can make your own team. Obviously, when you can make your own team, then you'll be able to use custom schemes in career mode. Again, that would most likely be for the next game or whatever it might be. It's not for this one. This one always confused me. Will you bring back celebrations and burnouts? It's always like, it's just not a big deal to me. I feel like there's so many other things that are more important than doing celebrations and burnouts, because you do it once and it's like, okay. It's like, all right, cool. It's I don't know. It's just not important to me. So yeah, if I had to like make a list of like things that are of importance, this would be towards the bottom.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Challenges are something that we'd love to bring back into future games, but I'd really like to make challenges that reference events that happen in the real world during the season, rather than just creating a list of scenarios that you kind of play through. So my dream would be to create challenges, you know, that are based on scenarios that happened in the race that weekend and bring them into the game using a live service. So there's lots of ways that we can do this, and I think it's something that I'm super interested in doing in the future. But currently, it's something that we'll be doing in future games.
So this was an interesting one. Will you bring back challenges to future NASCAR games? And the way Paul said it, he essentially said, like, you know, he wants to base it off of real life. I'd like to have a debate with him on that, because not everything that happens in real life is like the greatest thing ever. I remember the Texas games did this, but they also used the technology to where they took the driver line and the lap time and they like mirrored it perfectly. So they had that data, but then when you were racing against that AI, they wouldn't move from that line. They wouldn't be aware of where you are. So it was a little bit annoying. If you're making challenges, honestly, I think having the ability to be creative with it is the best thing to do, which means you don't have to follow real life things. You can just make up scenarios yourself. And I think that's better, because it allows the developer and the people working on the game to think of ideas, to think of cool scenarios, instead of just waiting for something to happen in real life. You can also do a combination of both. If you want to have a live service, you know, where you can add more challenges and stuff, that's fine. But when the game launches, you need to have scenarios and challenges, and they should be fantasy challenges, custom challenges, whatever scenario that you want to put in your head, because those are fun. It's not like, hey, Kevin Harvick ran down Kyle Larson with 10 laps to go. Can you do it too? Who cares? Like, who cares? Oh, but it happened in real life. Who cares? Is it fun for me to do? If it's not fun for me to do, I don't want to do it. I'd much rather have fantasy challenges, just like if you guys remember the NASCAR Heat days, way back, I'm talking way back, where you had Alan Bestwick do the intros and stuff. Those are all fantasy challenges. You know, can you pass 20 cars in 3 laps? Can you do a wreck avoidance challenge? Can you pit and then make up 30 seconds in a 10-lap span to catch guys who are on older tires? Those things are more fun, instead of this guy passed this guy with 3 laps to go, this guy had to defend with 2 laps to go. That stuff is boring. It really is. Honestly, no one cares about it. So get some creative minds in there with the challenges and work on creating very cool and unique scenarios. And then if you want to add real life stuff in there, you can, but that should be the focus for challenges.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think with all of the assists off, the car is pretty challenging to drive. This is due to the more authentic physics and tire model that we're using for ignition. I do agree that we could do a better job of giving players better feedback, so when they're losing control, they get the information they need to help them react better. I think for now, our focus is turning towards the next gen car, and we'll be looking to improve the car stability as we work on the new physics for that vehicle. But for now, I think if you're struggling, I'd like to recommend that you turn some of the assists on. We worked really hard to get those assists, helping players keep control of the car, and I'd encourage you to do that.
So Paul's answer to this of improving car stability because they spin out way too easily, he said essentially what I was saying right now is that you should just turn assist off. And for this game, I do agree with that, but just for the future games and for that next gen car, which he was alluding to, they do need to make sure that they kind of nail on that a little bit more. I do like the way the physics are going in terms of what they're doing under the hood with the physics of this game, but just make sure that the new car, especially with all assists off, is not impossible. That's the thing right now, is that it is impossible. I always drive with medium traction control, because if you turn the traction control off, it genuinely is impossible. There's not a single person in the world that can drive the cars with no assist off at certain tracks on this game. I'm sorry, that just is how it is. So that does need to be fixed for the next game.
Yeah, we've had a few people ask about this, and it's something we're going to look to do in the future. In order to make it happen, we really need to get more rules and penalties into the game so that we can police player behavior as they drive manually through the pit lane. So we're going to get those rules and penalties in place first, and then we'll look to introduce manual pit stops.
So you heard him talk about needing to add rules in for updating the game to allow player control in the pit lane, and I completely agree with that. I feel like this is still 2 to 3 years away. To have like complete manual control under cautions and in the pit lane and all that stuff, I still think you're 2 to 3 years away, honestly, because there's still too many things that have to be fixed, added, and maintained.
Yeah, great question. So again, this is down to the authentic car setups that we're using on the vehicles. At many tracks in the NASCAR calendar, the cars are running a staggered setup due to their tires having different rollouts or circumferences on the right side of the car compared to the left. So that essentially allows the car to more easily turn left, but it does also mean that the car tends to want to steer left even when you're driving down the straights. So in the real world, the drivers get to offset their steering wheel to make that more comfortable for them as they're running down the straights. That's a setting we don't currently have in the game, and I think it's a setting that we should be looking to introduce in the future.
This was the best answer, as you guys just heard. This was the best answer in this entire video, because I see a lot of complaints on this, and guys, this is normal. For a car to pull to the left on the straights, it's very normal. Happens all the time in real life, and he's right. Everything he said there was right. And the drivers do offset their wheel. You could even tell a lot. You guys ever know when the drivers have that little piece of tape on the wheel? That is to tell them how to go straight. And a lot of times that piece of tape, you know, they set it straight, but the actual wheel is offset. They don't, again, like he said, they don't have that setting. So if they could add that, cool, but it would be nice, so you don't have to always, like, you know, you could just drive straight when you want to go straight. But you know, it is a real thing. So that, and you could tell he was completely honest in that too. There was no PR work. It was like, this is how it is. This is what we don't have. See, best answer in the entire video, seriously.
We hear the community loud and clear on this, and it's something we're keen to support in the future. For me, I think the first step here is to give players more control over the sessions that are being created. That way, as a community, you'll be able to run races according to your own rules. And then I think the logical next step from there will be some kind of league support that will allow admins to run leagues, keep track of the results and the stats, and actually aggregate all of those things together and essentially have a place where their leagues can be controlled from.
This was another good answer, because yeah, they have their his priorities are right. So essentially, you got to make sure that we have control of the multiplayer sessions, and it's not that difficult to just do all the the points and the stats stuff. Just do that manually. It really is not. So like, you know, especially with the point system nowadays, you can give a certain amount of points for a winner, and you just keep track of it manually. There's a ton of different websites as well that will do this for you. So you could just race online and then go to the website, put in the finishing order, and they will take care of the points and the stats and all that for you. So that's not actually something that the game itself necessarily has to focus on, because there's a ton of different ways to do it. But what the game does have to do is give you that option to do custom race lengths and do track selections and private sessions and practice sessions and qualifying and all that stuff. That's what they need to focus on, not like just, you know, getting all the points and stuff down for the league racing. So another good answer. And by the way, that was submitted by Joey Stone. So shout out Joey.
Yeah, this is a question we get a lot, Jake, from, you know, both the community on social media and at the track in person. You know, our ultimate goal for NASCAR 22 is to ensure that the NASCAR Cup Series next gen car is as accurate as possible in the game. You know, we will look to incorporate the NASCAR Xfinity and NASCAR Truck Series into the console game in subsequent years, as we allow our development team to build those vehicles as accurate as possible. You know, we know the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series is essential to the sport of NASCAR and is a huge fan favorite, so it is something that we are looking to incorporate. You know, in previous NASCAR video game titles that did include the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, you know, when you got down to it, those vehicles drove very similar or the same. You know, we want to make sure that these vehicles are accurate to life, and an Xfinity Series car drives like an Xfinity Series car. A Truck Series vehicle drives like a Truck Series vehicle, and it's not just all the same thing that you're playing as. So we want to make sure that we get that right and get that accurate. And first up on that is the next the Cup Series next gen car.
So you heard Jay actually answered this. Jay is genuinely like an awesome guy. All right, so please, like, if you guys are complaining about this game, at least if you're complaining to Jay is genuinely an awesome dude. I just want to point that out. But can we look forward to the Xfinity, the truck? And he's the main reason why I met Jeff Gordon. So just want to point that out. Can we look forward to the Xfinity and Truck Series in future NASCAR games? I have always said this, guys. I just do not care. I do not care about adding Xfinity and trucks. I know a lot of you guys do. When you look at the brand, like the grand scheme of things, think about all of the things that still needs to be added, fixed, and fine-tuned. Why would you then add another 70 cars, hundreds of paint schemes, drivers, different? It's just like, sometimes instead of adding more content, just perfect the content that you have before you add more content. Because if you just add more content without thinking about the quality of it, it's just going to fail. Okay, so as Jay was saying, like, their focus is the Cup Series. It should be the focus. The Cup Series is the selling point. The Cup Series is what everybody watches. Yes, diehard fans, a lot of us, we all watch Xfinity and trucks, but that's just not a good enough selling point. It just isn't. Like, even if you want to sell the game and you say Xfinity and trucks is the main feature that we're adding, it's just like, that's like DLC content. Honestly, like, adding Xfinity and trucks is genuinely DLC content. It is not something that you can put as the main thing. And there's just so many other things that have to be put in. So I'm very, very, very passionate on this topic, because as much as you guys really want Xfinity and trucks in the game, and I completely understand that, I have always been someone to say, keep pushing that down the list until a lot of other things are added. A lot of things in career mode need to be added before you even think about Xfinity and trucks. A lot of things in multiplayer need to be added before you even think about Xfinity and trucks. A lot of things gameplay-wise needs to be fixed and corrected and all that. Race length, tire wear, fuel, all this stuff, rearview mirror, all that stuff, track map. And maybe not track map. But all those things need to be fixed and polished before Xfinity and Trucks need to be added. Because when you add Xfinity and Trucks, you also have to add tracks like Gateway or tracks like, tracks that they go to. You need to add those. And then you need to figure out a way to implement Xfinity and Trucks into career mode, which is as simple as you have to start in the Truck Series and make your way up. It's just we've seen that over and over and over. So unless there's like some sort of innovative way that you can get Xfinity and Trucks into the game and make it really matter to the rest of the game, just wait. Wait till the actual Cup Series game is, and the Cup Series and the actual game is good enough, and then you can add it. That's always been my opinion on it.
Our main goal continues to be to create a really authentic NASCAR gaming experience that wouldn't just be endorsed by the hardcore fans or the majority of it, but also by the 3-year-old that looks to pick up the controller and really have a nice, joyful experience. So that continues to be our goal, to be authentic, joyful, and really fun. But our key takeaways is that we really need to polish our product more for the product release and make sure that we don't miss some of those really core components of the sport, like stages, again, before releasing a game. So from those key learnings and staying committed to creating a joyful experience, you could assure that we could continue to improve year in and year out.
And then the final question was, what are Motorsport Games' goals for the future? And then you heard DK talk about it. And it was just funny because, when DK said we want this game for the hardcore fans and for the 3-year-old, and then you go back to what Paul said about what the tire wear and the fuel gauge, like, oh, you shouldn't have that tire wear information. You see the difference? It's like, I don't know why Paul decided to answer that question how he did. But this game is not supposed to be Gran Turismo. It's not supposed to be R Factor 2. It's not supposed to be a full-blown, hardcore, die-hard simulation. No, kids gotta play it. It's a simcade. That's what this game's supposed to be. So, I just found it funny because, when DK is saying a lot of people should be able to play this game, and then on the other side we have, why didn't you have this feature? Well, the real-life drivers don't have it, and no. So yeah, get the messaging right. Work on the PR a little bit more. But that's basically the summary of the town hall, guys. And at the end of the day, the reason why I'm making this video is because obviously, I know they're trying to make a better game. It's just some of the things, and again, like I said, their intentions. They have the right intentions. DK always says. And by the way, when I say DK, I'm always talking about Dmitry Kosko. He always talks about, he wants to be more transparent and everything. Some of it is business talk. Some of it is actually him being genuine. I've actually met him. He's a really cool dude. But a lot of the things that these guys say, sometimes it could be business talk and sometimes it could actually be the genuine things. And you can kind of tell by certain answers which one is business talk and PR and which one's genuine. Even by some of Paul's answers. Just like when Paul was talking about the car turning left, that was a genuine answer. When Paul was talking about the rearview mirror, that's business talk. Because you can easily tell when he's talking about the rearview mirror, that's a load of BS because it's just not true. And then when he's talking about the actual car setups, that is true. It's just as simple as that. So they have the right intentions. They just need to focus a little bit more on it and execute it better. And at the end of the day, guys, they answered a lot of these questions. They did probably adjust a lot of the wording because I guarantee, a lot of you sent very angry messages. But they're not going to put up your message that literally states why the F did you do? They're just not going to do it. Why is this so bad? They're not going to do that. It's just, how it is. But overall, I just want to make this video because there are just certain things that I think they can do better, and there are certain things that they are getting right, and we'll see. We will see. I hope they do this more often. Even before the launch of NASCAR 22, whenever they announce that game, whenever they announce features, instead of the normal kind of PR spin of dev diaries and whatever else, answer questions. Do maybe another one of this before launch. So you can be completely transparent with what the game is going to be. So that way you can gain trust back. Because all of this, the reason why this is made is to gain trust back. Because they know they lost trust. That's why this was made. So Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I being too harsh? Or am I spot on? Or am I not being harsh enough? Let me know what you think. Do you also disagree with some of the things I said, like for Xfinity and Trucks, and stuff like that? Do you think Paul's telling the truth with the rearview mirror? I can 99.9% sure he's not, because this PC is definitely powerful enough to run a rearview mirror. But you know, it is what it is. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day. Subscribe if you're new. Comment down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, sub. Please subscribe, because we're heading for 100,000 subscribers, even though we're 35,000 away. But it's a lofty goal. You always want to reach for the stars, and hopefully these NASCAR games are good enough to reach for the stars one day. I don't know. I just wanted to compare the two, you know. Okay, I'm gonna go now. All right, because I'm tired of listening to town hall stuff, and I'm also hungry. I want to eat, and yeah, so I'm also gonna go see my dog. So have a good Thursday. All right. Have a good day, guys. See you later. Keep being you, okay? Keep being you.